Sarah Simon, Director,
Just
Human and Social Division, OECS Commission.
I don't know if you're here.
Ms. Lorraine St. Louis,
Allow
Net.
them a few minutes.
Permanent Secretary with responsibility for educational administration, Ministry of Education, Grenada. Dr. Jeffrey Blaze, Chief Education Officer, Ministry of Education and Human Resource Development, Dominica. Mr. Dominic Jeremiah, Chief Education Officer, Ministry of Education, Grenada. Ms. Beverly Diedone, Chief Education Officer, Ministry of Education, Sustainable Development, Innovation, Science, Technology, and Vocational Training, St. Lucia. Ms. K. Martin Jack, Chief Education Officer, Ministry of Education and National Reconciliation, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Ms. Shellyan Harper, Keynote Speaker, Early Childhood Development Specialist at UNICEF Office for the Eastern Caribbean area. Dr. Elizabeth Monroe and other members of the OECS Pearl Project Implementation Consultancy Team, picked. Heads of departments and officials of the Ministries of Education, staff of the OECS Commission, early childhood staff, St. Lucia, Grenada, Dominica, St. Vincent, early childhood supervisors and administrators, online and face-to-face participants. Good morning. A warm Grenadian welcome to each of you to our OECS Pearl ECE Leaders Forum. My name is Valana Moraine, and I am an early childhood education officer attached to the Ministry of Education, Grenada. I will be serving as your moderator for our two-day leadership forum. It is an absolute so passionate researchers and policymakers gathered face-to-face and virtually, all united by a common goal: to advance the field of early childhood education and empower learners everywhere. In the world of ECE, we know that quality experiences in early childhood lays the foundation for a child's future success. It's about nurturing young minds, fostering a love of learning, and providing a safe and stimulating environment where children can thrive. This year's theme, Understanding Quality and Setting Goals in ECE Programs, is particularly relevant as we navigate a rapidly changing world. The aim of this leadership forum is to bring ECE leaders together and to provide you with an opportunity to learn about and reflect upon indicators of quality in your specific ECE context. Simultaneously, it is also for you to collaboratively develop leadership tools and strategies towards achieving the objective of enhanced outcomes for children. The forum will include two technical sessions, one on understanding quality in ECE programs, and the second on setting goals for improvement in ECE programs. Over the next 2 days, we will delve into what truly constitutes quality in ECE. A key part of ensuring quality is the ability to set meaningful and achievable goals. As such, we will be working together to develop strategies for setting effective goals for our programs and our contexts. Colleagues, the need for adaptable, creative, and critical thinkers has never been greater, and this leadership forum provides a crucial platform and an opportunity to discuss how we can best equip our students with the skills they need to thrive. Therefore, this leadership forum is not just about listening to presentations. It's about engaging in meaningful dialogue, sharing ideas, best practices, developing action plans, and building connections with colleagues who share our passion for early childhood education. I encourage you to actively participate in the sessions, ask questions, share your own experience, learn from each other, connect with fellow attendees, and collaborate to develop the necessary leadership tools and strategies to improve EC programs in your context. The collective wisdom in this room from participants who are face-to-face or online is immense. And by working together, we can make a real difference in the lives of all our learners. As such, I am confident that this forum will be a valuable and enriching experience for all of us as we work together to create a brighter future for all our children by understanding quality and setting goals that truly make a difference. And so, colleagues, let's embrace this opportunity to learn, collaborate, and inspire each other. A hearty welcome to all of you, and I look forward to a productive and inspiring time together. At this time, I invite Ms. Nicole Fletcher-Newton to lead this morning's devotions.
A pleasant good morning, colleagues, and those of you who are joining us online, a pleasant good morning. It is a good thing to give thanks unto the Lord because He is good. You know it well. So let us stand for our devotion this morning.
Recording in progress.
I am going to read, I'm going to pray, and then we will sing, okay? A heart of gratitude, a devotional for educators. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters. Colossians 3:23. As an educator, each day presents new challenges. Students who need extra support, administrative demands, and the weight of shaping young minds. In the midst of these challenges, it's easy to focus on what is difficult than what is good. Yet, God calls us to have hearts full of gratitude. Gratitude shifts our perspective. Instead of seeing obstacles, we see opportunities. Instead of dwelling on exhaustion, we recognize the strength God provides every day. Each child who enters our classroom is a reminder that we have been entrusted with a sacred mission to teach, to guide, and to love. Consider the impact of a simple thank you from a student or the moment a struggling learner finally understands a concept. These are gifts from God, glimpses of His grace at work through you. When you choose gratitude, we invite joy into our calling and reflect God's love in our classrooms. Let us pray. Lord, we thank you today for your goodness, your love, and your mercies that you have extended to us. Lord, we thank you for the calling to be an educator. In the moments of exhaustion and frustration, God, may you help us to see the blessings you have placed before us. Give us a heart of gratitude so that we may serve every student, every family, and the nation with joy. And so too, we would reflect your love in all that we do. In Jesus' name, amen. We are now going to sing 1,000 Reasons. I'm sure you know it. Bless the Lord, oh my soul. Oh my soul, worship his holy name. Sing like never before. Oh my soul, I'll worship your holy name. The sun comes up, it's a new day dawning. It's time to sing your song again. Whatever may pass and whatever lies before me, let me be singing when the evening comes. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name. Sing like never before. Oh my soul, I'll worship your holy name. You're rich in love and you're slow to anger. Your name is great and your heart is kind. For all your goodness I will keep on singing. 10,000 reasons for my heart to find. I'm not hearing you, let's sing. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship your holy name. Sing like never before. Oh my soul, I'll worship your holy name. And on that day when my strength is failing, the end draws near and my time has come. Oh, still my soul will sing your praise unending. 10,000 years and then forevermore. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name. Never before, oh my soul, I'll worship your holy name. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name. Sing like never before. Oh my soul, I'll worship your holy name. Yes, I'll worship your holy name. Lord, I'll worship your holy name.
Thank you, Ms. Newton, for blessing us and really inspiring us this morning. I now invite our Chief Education Officer from Grenada, Mr. Dominic Jeremiah, to make some remarks.
Mrs. Cicera Simon, Director, Human and Social Division, OECS Commission. Mrs. Lorraine St. Louis Ned, Permanent Secretary with responsibility for educational administration, Ministry of Education, Grenada. Colleagues, CEOs throughout the OECS, Ms. Shelley Ann Harper, keynote speaker, early childhood development specialist at UNICEF for the Eastern Caribbean area. Dr. Elizabeth Monroe and other members of the OECS Pearl Project Implementation Consultancy Team, heads of departments and officials of the Ministry of Education, staff of the OECS Commission, early childhood staff throughout the OECS, early childhood supervisors, administrators, and of course our online participants. I am delighted to join our moderator to welcome you to this historic education forum on understanding quality and setting goals for early childhood education in the OECS. Audrey Hepburn once said that a quality education has the power to transform societies into Audrey Hepburn once said that a quality education has the power to transform societies in a single generation, provide children with the protection they need from the hazards of poverty, labor exploitation, and diseases, and give them the knowledge, skills, and confidence to reach their full potential. We are gathered at Radisson Hotel in our schools and offices around the OECS with the shared commitment to the future of our Caribbean or OECS early learners, our children. We embrace the truth that the foundation that we lay in these early years will determine the direction of their lives in the future. Quality in early childhood education is about fostering an environment where our children can thrive. They can explore and develop the skills they need for lifelong learning. It is about ensuring that every child, regardless of their background, has access to enriching experiences that stimulate their cognitive, emotional, and social growth. We, the educators and policymakers, have the critical responsibility to ensure that the quality of education that we provide during these formative years is of the highest standard. So setting achievable and clear goals for early childhood education in the OECS requires a collaborative effort. It is essential for our pursuit of excellence in this sector. We must all listen attentively to the voices of our teachers, our parents, and the educational luminaries in our communities to understand the unique needs and challenges faced by our children. This disposition would lead to the development of policies that support inclusive and equitable access to early learning opportunities. During this time that we will spend together here, we will explore various dimensions of quality in early childhood education and discuss strategies for setting and accomplishing our objectives. We will hear from experts in the field, share best practices, and set the stage for meaningful conversations. I want to challenge each of you, as our moderator did earlier, to participate fully in the dialogue. Share your insights and build collaborative friendships for the work ahead. Be open to new, fresh, and innovative strategies. At the end of this leadership forum, let us return to our classroom, to our offices, our preschools, early childhood centers, determined to make a significant impact on the lives of our children and the future of not only Grenada, but the rest of the OECS. We must commit to lifting the standards in early childhood education and to give every child a chance to be the best that he or she was created to be. It is an honor to once again welcome everybody to this leadership forum. I want to end with a quote from a wise educator who said that education is preeminently a matter of quality, not amount. It is a matter of quality. Have an enjoyable conference, and may God bless you all.
Thank you for your remarks, Mr. Jeremiah. I like that quote you ended with. Very powerful. It's a matter of quality, not the amount. Very powerful, profound. I now invite Ms. Lorraine St. Louis Ned, Permanent Secretary with responsibility for educational administration from the Ministry of Education, Grenada, to make some remarks. Ms. Ned.
Mrs. Cicera Simon, Director, Human and Social Division, OECS Commission, Dr. Jeffrey Blaze, Chief Education Officer, Ministry of Education and Human Resource Development, Dominica, Mr. Dominic Jeremiah, Chief Education Officer, Ministry of Education, Grenada, Ms. Bevan, Chief Thank you. Dr. Elizabeth Rowe and other members of the OECS Pearl Project Implementation Consultancy Team, heads of departments and officials of the Ministry of Education, staff of the OECS Commission, early childhood staff, St. Lucia, Grenada, Dominica, St. Vincent, early childhood supervisors and administrators, online participants, good morning. It is an honor, and it really is, to address you at this significant gathering of leaders dedicated to strengthening early childhood education, or ECE, in the OECS. This forum represents an invaluable opportunity to engage in meaningful dialogue, share insights, and work collaboratively towards a shared vision of quality in ECE programs across our region. We recognize that the foundation of a successful society is laid in early childhood. The formative years of a child's life are critical in shaping their cognitive, physical, social, and emotional development. Research has consistently shown that high-quality early childhood experiences rooted in positive relationships, strong learning environments, and equitable access to resources have long-term benefits, not only for the individual child, but for entire communities and nations. The government of Grenada and particularly the Ministry of Education, remains steadfast in its commitment to ensuring that every child has access to high-quality early childhood education. We understand that this means addressing various aspects of quality, ensuring well-trained educators, safe and stimulating environments, and fostering rich, nurturing interactions that promote learning and well-being. This year's forum theme, Understanding Quality and Setting Standards in ECE Programs, calls us to action. It challenges us to define what quality means in our unique context and to set achievable, strategic goals that will drive tangible improvements in the early childhood programs. Through our discussions and collaborative efforts over these 2 days, we will deepen the understanding of quality while tailoring our strategies to fit our local realities. As we engage in these discussions, let us remain focused on the ultimate beneficiaries, our children. The responsibility we carry as educators, policymakers, and advocates is immense, but so is our collective power to effect change. The prioritization of early childhood education in the OECS program for Educational Advancement and Relevant Learning, PEARL, is a testament of the importance placed by the ministries of education in the region to fostering an enabling environment for equitable and high-quality early childhood services. I encourage each of us to use this forum as a catalyst for action. Let us move beyond discussion to implementation, ensuring that the knowledge and strategies developed here are integrated into our national work plans for 2025, 2026, and beyond. Together, let us reaffirm our commitment to build strong foundations for lifelong learning. Our investment in quality early childhood education today will shape the future success of our nations. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you for your remarks, B.S. Ned. And I like let us move beyond discussion to implementation. And collectively, we can do a lot. Well said. I now invite Mr. Sarah Simon, Director, Human and Social Division, OECS Commission, to make some remarks. Ms. Simon will be joining us virtually.
Martin Jack, our Chief Education Officer in Dominica, Dr. Jeffrey Blaise. Colleagues, friends, welcome, welcome. It is good to be here. It is an opportunity for us to meet here, not only as early childhood supporters, practitioners or administrators, but also as parents caregivers, sisters, yeah, all of us here, brothers, to really come together at this momentous occasion. This is a time for us to really reflect, refine, reimagine what we have been doing. And I'm certain all of you here would agree that this is the right time. We're not here to simply discuss early childhood education, or the quality rather of early childhood education. We are here to define what this means in our context. We're not just here to set goals. We're writing the first chapter of a brighter story for every child in the OECS. As Margaret Mead wisely said, never doubt what a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can do to change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that has ever has. People coming together, brainstorming, sharing ideas, and being committed. Over the next 2 days, it will be our opportunity to re-engage and to do just that, to share our thoughts, to commit to changing the world for every child. And if you've not recognized this, let me reiterate it. It is our opportunity to really create our futures. Because tomorrow, it's also for us and for them. For none of us know when is our time. We'll set measurable goals, not as abstract numbers indicating we want 500 children or 1,000 children to access early childhood. But we want to set realistic goals that will ensure that we prepare our children for today and, of course, tomorrow. For those joining us virtually, please use the chat function to share your thoughts and your questions so that those of us right here in beautiful St. Lucia, we can engage with you, although virtually. I am certain that if we all take at least 1 minute to share our thoughts, there will be so much that can be gathered from it. Please, I encourage each of you to make your contributions. I challenge everyone here to think about one actionable step you will take this week, this year, or next year to improve early childhood education. And not my words, actionable. Not simply saying, I will seek to better listen to parents or work with my peers, but think about something you can do, something within your control that you can do to change or improve early childhood services. And I'm certain at some point we can engage in some reflection. A tiny hand, a curious eye, a world of wonder reaching high. With gentle guidance, love, and care, a future bright beyond compare. We plant the seeds with hope and trust in fertile ground where dreams are nursed. Each tender shoot, a precious bloom, dispelling darkness, chasing gloom. So let us nurture, let us guide with our hearts and spirits wide. For in these children, small and dear, the future of our world is here. We are not just educators, early childhood practitioners, administrators. Like began, we are sisters, we are aunts, we are grandmothers. We are the gardeners of potential. Every interaction, every engagement, every policy it's a drop of water, a ray of sunshine on a child's growing spirit. Let us leave here not just informed, but inspired. Let us carry the spirit of this forum back to our early childhood centers, our communities, our homes, both physically and virtually, and nurture the dreams of our youngest learners. Thank you. Thank you for your passion, your dedication, your unwavering belief in the power of early childhood education. Let this forum be a catalyst that sparks a wave of positive change across the Oecs. I now officially declare the 2025 Early Childhood Education Leaders Forum open. I thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Cicera Simon, for your remarks. Colleagues, we have been given a challenge. Are we going to go along with it? One actionable step we will take to improve early childhood education. So can we say challenge accepted? Accepted. All right. I now invite my colleague, Ms. Vida George, from the island of Dominica, to introduce our keynote speaker. Ms. George. And Ms. George is online. She's online.
With our host country already establishing the protocol, I say good morning to everyone. With great honor and gratitude, I will now introduce our keynote speaker, Ms. Shelley-Ann Harper. Ms. Shelley-Ann Harper is the Early Childhood Development Specialist in the UNICEF Office for the Eastern Caribbean. She is a certified educator with more than 25 years of experience. Shelley-Ann studied for a Bachelor of Arts in Literatures in English at the University of the West Indies and studied for a Master's of Arts in Curriculum and Instruction, concentrating on early childhood education and special needs education at the Arizona State University in the United States of America. Shelley-Ann's work focuses on the rights of all children to good health, adequate nutrition, safety and protection, quality education, and to be cared by responsible caregivers. I present to you Ms. Shelley-Ann Harper.
Hi, Shelley-Ann. We're not hearing you.
All right, so I start again.
Yes, we're hearing you now.
Thank you very much, Ms. George, for the introduction. And it's certainly a pleasure to be here. You know, whenever we come together in the virtual forum, somebody has to say to me, Shelley-Ann, you need to unmute. It feels like no matter how many times we do it, I forget. I would like to stand on the protocol already established, but certainly to bring greetings from the UNICEF Eastern Caribbean Office, It is really a pleasure to be here. I'm really honored to be here and, very excited when I was asked to present. Now, of course, it would have been great to be in any of the 4 countries, which I love and visit often as part of my work. But we're thankful that the technology allows us to engage in this way. So as we say, let's get to work. The science says that, when you're given a presentation, after about 20 minutes, people start to think about what they're going to cook, what they're going to have for lunch. So I'm going to try to take us through my presentation as succinctly as possible so that we're not overly extending, the sitting and the listening. As I was listening to the speakers who have gone before, Ms. Maureen, the chief, the PS, Cicera, I thought, I can actually almost just go to questions and answers because we already had some very powerful speakers when we're talking about quality in early childhood. So let's get going. Understanding quality and setting goals in ECD programs. So the structure of the presentation, I will quickly give some introductory comments. We will have a look at some of the early childhood outcomes, and we will look both at the global level and, of course, what's happening in our region, through CARICOM, OECS, UNESCO, etc. We will look at a framework for holistic development. We'll look at transformation of education, what's happening there, indicators of quality, challenges in providing quality, and why the quality in early years matter. And of course, we have heard some of this already, and so I will be reiterating and strengthening what we've heard before. So I decided to start here, start with the end in mind, and I used the words intentionality. And basically what I am saying here is that as you walk into your classrooms, your early childhood center, as the chiefs, enter their offices, we should be thinking, what is it that we have in mind for the children? What is it that we have in mind for our families? What is it? What do we want to achieve through this thing that we call education? And of course, we know that education is, it's wide-ranging. And, sometimes people think, okay, we talk about early childhood education, we're talking about academics alone. No, we realize that it's much broader than that. So intentionality, what is it? And we have a challenge already from Cicera. What is it that we will be doing for and with our children? So let's look at some outcomes. I looked and did some research on some of the key development outcomes. And really, when we think of education, early childhood development, we are saying that, it's a journey. The science tells us that what children learn, the things that they do, their attitudes, their aptitudes to learning, all of this is grounded and cemented very early in life. And, there was someone who said that when you see a child of about 6 or 7, you can almost see the man or woman that child is going to be. Now, that could be a bit scary if we think about that, because it means that the window in which we are building those foundations, it passes very quickly. The science tells us that within those first 1,000 days, between conception and age 3, the brain, is developing rapidly, and the children are learning and picking up, different habits and characteristics and ways of being. And so when we're thinking of early childhood, what is the outcome that we are expecting on the other end? Because of course, it's not just for now, it's not just to get ready for preschool, but we're getting children ready for life, to be part of life, and helping them to transition smoothly through the different phases of early childhood. So I had a quick look In the global report on early childhood care and education, I looked at some research done globally through the Society of Research, and they identified some of these key outcomes as those we are seeing there. The expectation that if we do education right, if we do early education right, if we put all of the ingredients in, and we're talking about quality. So when we are engaging with our children, when we are supporting, how they're going to learn, when we're making sure that the environment supports them, the hope is that this is what we will see at the other end. Better health and nutrition, enhanced social and emotional skills, improved cognitive development, enhanced school readiness, strengthened family and community engagement, long-term educational and economic benefits. And when we look at this, for example, if we look at better health and nutrition, we're talking not only about the physical health, but also mental health and wellness as well. A lot of discussions currently now, we're exploring mental health and psychosocial support that families need, that well-being. How are we supporting that? When we look at nutrition, across the region, we are hearing about high levels of NCDs, type 2 diabetes, adults with, heart disease. These habits are set early in childhood. And so when we look at the fact that our health bill is going up because there's so many people suffering from NCDs, those habits started very early. Enhanced social and emotional skills. I touched on that just now. How are children learning to be together? How are they building relationships? How are they developing that sort of emotional strength so that, they can manage conflict and they can manage, sadness, but then be able to, carry on and get on with the next thing. Improve cognitive development. We know that again is wide ranging. How are we encouraging children to use their talents, use their skills? How we encourage them how to work together, to be part of a group, but also they can work independently. All of this comes into that whole matter of cognitive development. We're looking now at more use of technology. How are our children being prepared for a world that says, you can do a lot of what you do virtually, like we're doing now, but you still need time to come back and be together, just as you are in your countries as well. Enhanced school readiness, you know what that means. I'm not going to go through that. Strengthen family and community engagement. Remember, there is an ecosystem that we have to build around children. So when they come to your schools, your early childhood center, they come with their family, but then you become the family that they come to when they leave home. And that relationship between you and the parents, their caregivers, the grandparents, the community around them is crucial because children need those inputs from various aspects of life with the child in the center. Long-term educational and economic benefits, and this is what they're saying. The research is saying children who have enjoyed quality early childhood, children who've had opportunities for early learning, opportunities to become good communicators and to develop those skills are more likely to go ahead in life, be more successful in school, be able to start businesses or, find really good jobs. But it's saying, again, those skills that they need for this, those competencies must be developed early in life. Then we have the learning outcomes for early childhood development. And this one is through CARICOM. And I know some of the persons in the room right now might have worked on this document, the Caribbean outcomes for early learners. And if you look at how CARICOM just identified the outcomes, we talk about the same thing: wellness, both health and mental, effective communication. How do you relate with people? How are their speech and language? How can they express themselves, etc. Value and culture. We know what that's all about. Self, not only understanding you, but what about the people who I'm with? How do I understand them? and how do we work together, looking for the strengths in our sameness and the strengths in our differences. Intellectual empowerment, we talked about that, improved cognitive development. So CARICOM is looking at the same thing, respect for self and others and the environment, and of course, resilience. Resilience, a word which we are hearing a lot. And sometimes we hear people, children are resilient. We have to help children to learn how to be resilient. We've got to give children the tools to build that resilience. I mean, we understand resilience to be, the ability to handle challenges, to maybe have some disappointment, but then you can recover and go on to the next thing. The ability to not only look out for you, but how do I help my neighbor? How do I help my friend? All of that is what we talk about resilience, and it's our job to help children to learn how to do this. You've got to set up your classroom to support this kind of development. So then I went over and we looked at OECS's vision for an educated person, and I thought that was quite interesting. And again, if you think about what I said before, and we look at how OECS has envisioned, and so they've looked at the 21st century skills and lifelong learning. These are the outcomes that we're hoping for children, that they develop knowledge and skills and behaviors that allows them to use their creativity, that allows them to think critically and solve problems. Adolescents, youth, adults who will be taking forward our society. So we need them to develop these skills and attitudes and behaviors. Attends to the well-being of self and others. We talked about that. Demonstrates respect for diversity and the rights of individuals in a manner that fosters an inclusive society. I was in Antigua and Barbuda 2 weeks ago, and I went to visit a school for children with some of the very severe disabilities and special needs. And I said, I know that there are children like these, children who look like these and have some of the challenges like these in Barbados. I do not see them out and about in regular life, and I thought that there must be more that we can do to include children, all children, so that they can participate in what we call this thing called life. There must be a way for them to participate. We said we want children to be active in communities, as I said, democratic, so being able to express themselves, give their opinion and ideas to take forward society. A lot of discussion around the environment and what's happening with climate and climate-related challenges. We are seeing more of this. We're saying we want our children to be able to manage, these concerns, because this is what's coming up as they're growing. We're looking at sustainability, innovation, etc. And of course, here comes the word resilience again. Reflexive, flexible, adaptive. In other words, we want children who can sometimes, roll with a punch. Sometimes things don't go as well as we thought. But how do we help our children to be able to, take that step, adjust? This is not going quite right. Maybe I can go a different direction. Maybe I can do it a bit differently. So this is what we're talking about, the vision for an educated person. And the last set of outcomes that I will look here, because I know time is going really fast, UNESCO's 5 pillars of learning. And then we look, was developed in 1996. And what it struck me was that everything, OECS 2022, the ones to the front, 205, 1996, we're asking the same thing. We want people who can learn to change oneself and change society. How are they going to contribute? Learning to live together. We talked about that. Learning to be, learning to do, and learning to learn. So these are some of the outcomes that every time we sit and we start to plan for our children, these are some of the outcomes that we are thinking of and trying to see how best to support this. And these are not exhaustive. There are many, many more outcomes that you can focus on as we go forward. So I then went to UNICEF's core mandate, because if we're talking about quality, there's some frameworks that can help us and give us some guidance on how to go forward. So for example, the rights of the child, the right to good health, good nutrition, education, the right to protection, safety from harm, and the right to participate. So we've said all this just now. What UNICEF is saying in the conventions is that this is everybody's business. So as Cicero said earlier, whether you are the parent in the house, you're the grandmother looking after, you're the uncle dropping off to school, how that as we go about our business and we're looking after the children, are they accessing this right? If they're not, first we've got to figure out why they're not. And then what is it that we can do to help them? So we've got the UNICEF core mandate there, the rights of the child. Then I put this little slide together because this is important. Over here, we've got the Sustainable Development Goals. And maybe sometimes when you were in your early childhood center with the children, you're in the classroom, you're not thinking about the Sustainable Development Goals. But this, again, when we think about those outcomes we looked at earlier, the Sustainable Development Goals, they're asking for the same thing. And right now the research is saying that we're not on track to achieve most of these goals. We know that we would have had the COVID pandemic, which kind of really set the world back in a big way. But there are a lot of children, and then by extension, as they go into adulthood, where they're not achieving these goals. Again, because the quality in the early childhood is not as strong and it's not as consistent as it needs to be. But what we do know about the early childhood development and quality early childhood is that, that's the foundation. And what the Sustainable Development Goals are saying, let's give an example. They're saying, okay, no poverty. That's what we want for all beings. I'm sorry, my hand touched the slide. No poverty. But what they're saying is, if children are exposed to quality early childhood, if children are able to access quality learning, in the early childhood centers, in their classroom, if children are learning, as we said before, developing those skills of being, how to be, how to learn, they're developing their skills, they're developing their talents, they're learning how to conduct their own research and build things together. All of this is what we look at when we talk about quality. And the classrooms are engaging and it's fun. They're saying they will, as we said earlier, go on to open businesses, get good jobs, earn, support their family. And that's where the target of no poverty can be reached. And so, of course, it's a long-term look. But what they're saying is early childhood is at the crux of it. It's saying that children who are developmentally on track in learning, psychosocial health, etc., is able to move forward in some of these areas. When we look at good health and well-being, peace and justice and strong communities, that's an important one. Because right now, there is a lot of conflict and war and violence in our societies. We're saying early childhood, if children are learning how to collaborate and cooperate and solve problems and discuss and disagree, but can still work together, then we're going to see more of peace and more justice and strong institutions. And the saying is, there is no peace if there is no justice. So when we're looking at equity and fairness in the classroom, all of this contributes to what we call developing, the sustainable goals for all children, climate action, clean water and sanitation. All of this really is speaking to a very holistic way of life for children. To touch quickly on the nurturing care framework, a lot of our work really is built around this. Again, maybe you're not even aware of this framework, but really what it's saying is that there are 5 key components, and these can link back to the rights of the child. 5 key components, which says that children need good health, adequate nutrition, responsive caregiving, safety and security, we know protection in their communities, and opportunities to learn. If we are making sure that this is happening, these components, then it means that children are getting on the right track. For me, if we get those responsive caregiving part, if we can get that right, to me, all of the other bits should fall into place. So you've got the sustainable goals, you've got the nurturing care framework. So all of this is speaking to, when we're thinking of quality, these are areas that we want to give some consideration. All right. So I went here because, I guess you are aware, I would think you are aware, that since COVID, the world has been talking about transforming education. The world has been talking about the quality of education and the fact that quality is lacking in a lot of areas. The agreement is that, yes, schools had challenges before COVID, but then the COVID-19 pandemic, almost opened the floodgates, and we really recognize the challenges that we've been having within the school system, within the structures, facilities, resources, lack of resources. And the thing about it was that the sector that, to me, was most heavily impacted, if we really think about it, was the early childhood sector. Because what you found, and this was globally, that once the world started moving again, the focus for education was on primary education, secondary education, tertiary, children have exams, they've got to get back to school, etc. And then bit by bit, we came and tried to get the early childhood sector going again. I pulled this because these are the 12 core areas that across the spectrum of education, they're saying these are areas that we need to concentrate and we need to develop. And I highlighted some in pink, which I'm going to come back to in a minute. Because when you think of education transformation, I have said this before, you will not have real transformation. We will not have sustainable transformation unless early childhood is considered as that key population that we have to make sure that quality is improving. That key population that we're putting investments into, we're putting financing, we're giving attention, we are looking at the resources, we are looking at the capacity of people to deliver a quality program. So our next slide is indicators of quality. So this is where we're trying to get. Again, this is not exhaustive. So what I did here, this is a combination of the thinking of a lot of people. I know the Pearl coordinators, they sent some ideas about what they consider key indicators. And I say key because, there are a lot of indicators that you can measure for quality. But I think it's important for us to identify a small number that we can really measure and that we can measure consistently. Because, sometimes there are too many and we become overwhelmed.
Ms. Harper?
And, yes?
Just a moment, please. Are we supposed to be seeing
You're
the
not
slides?
seeing the slide. You should be.
We have not been seeing any since you started.
Really?
Yeah, but it's because you are referring to the
oh my
slides,
God.
I realized that you were supposed to be seeing.
Yeah, because you should have stopped me earlier because I had meant to hit share, which I didn't. So I'm just gonna come up. Oh my goodness, that's just crazy. All right, let me just share this one here. Are you seeing it? Oh, somebody should have said something earlier. Are you seeing my screen now?
We're just seeing you.
All right, let's see. Are you seeing it now?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Somebody should have triggered me. All right. So I'm going to do one quick go back. I think I'm 25 minutes in, so I'm still good. All right. Let me just do a quick. I'm going to hop back. I'm sorry. This is crazy. Start with the end in mind. So this is where we started, right? And then we looked at some of the early childhood outcomes. And of course, I think you will get these slides anyway, so it'll be all right. But you will, so this is where we looked at some of the outcomes. And I talked about the CARICOM outcomes, the ones we took from the global reports. Then we went here to the OECS's vision for early learning. And as I said, I really like UNESCO's pillars: learning to change oneself, learning to live together, learning to be, learning to do, and learning to learn. I do apologize, folks, I'm sorry. Then we went here to the rights of children, the core mandates of UNICEF, and that's where we were here. Then we were looking at the frameworks. So we looked at the Sustainable Development Goals. We know that, you know, in terms of the goals, early childhood for the first time have been included in the Sustainable Development Goals as its own sort of indicator. And it's really looking at, you know, the quality of early childhood and that all children should have access to quality, equitable, inclusive education. We looked here at the nurturing care framework, where we spoke about the 5 components: nutrition, good health, responsive caregiving, safety and security, opportunities for early learning. So this is where we are just about. I was just talking about the 12 core areas of education transformation, which have come out of the whole discussion around the COVID, the challenges that families experience and schools, education experience. And these are the areas, and these are sort of like the regional framework, the Caribbean has identified these 12 core areas that they will be focusing on. And I highlighted in pink these ones because these are also very critical to what my next slide is. And I don't know if that was Kimono not Kimono, the person who alerted me, Miss Maureen, maybe? It's a good point because we're getting into the meat of the matter here now. So here we are, right? We're at the meat of the matter, so it's all right. Indicators of quality. And as I was saying that, there are many, many indicators. In your context, it's important that you pick those indicators that you can manage and you can measure and works in your context. Because we will not all maybe prioritize the same things. It depends on your context. But so I was saying that some of the pearl coordinators contributed to this slide in that they sent some ideas. I also called around to some of the retired, what they thought. And the question I asked them was, what would be 5 key indicators if you had to pick 5? And then from those bits of information I got, I prepared early childhood. We need people to understand the best way in which children learn. And we know that for young children, it needs to be interactive. We call it learning through play. We call it learning by doing. But we know we want them in classes and settings that allows them to engage with each other, engage with the adults in the setting. We need them to be engaging with materials and equipment and resources. When I did my practice teaching, I had the supervisors. Effective leadership. How are they making sure that this thing we call quality is happening in a consistent way? How are they looking at the curriculum, which is down below, setting curriculum that's relevant, setting curriculum that is progressive, and it's adaptive, and we know it's changing, and it all depends sometimes on the situation that we're in, how we go. Strong systems and policies is important for quality because these systems and policies help to guide, how we develop. It helps us to have those parameters that people can follow. Okay, you know what you need to do. You know how you can do it. you know the extent to which you can be a bit creative and do something a bit differently, and how do you operate within that kind of structure. Comprehensive family and community engagement, critical, and we said that earlier. We need to make sure that families consider themselves to be part of. And I'm going to say this, and I've said it before. If I am a parent and I am told that I cannot enter my child's school or the classroom, well, that may not be the classroom or center for my child. Because, yes, of course, there must be a structure in which, yes, parents come in and out. But parents must feel like the classroom is also theirs. You know, they're also part of developing the curriculum. They are part of implementing the curriculum and helping with the resources and what we need to make it work. Safe and stimulating environments, I mean, that says it. We're talking both physical safety and we're also talking psychological safety. And, you know, when we think about children and the homes that they're coming from, sometimes some children come from some very troubled homes where there is violence. Sometimes there's not enough to eat. There is abuse for some children. Some children are not safe at home. The environment of school must support that. You know, that must be the safe space that child can come to. Stimulating, of course, you need resources and materials for children to engage in. You know, they've got to be able to explore and engage with each other, you know, puzzles and building blocks and singing and all of this. Resources for teacher and learning, we touched that. Continuous quality improvement, this is important. And this comes to what we're going to be doing later. Because even as you're looking at all of these indicators of quality, we must always be thinking, what is it that it must lead to? What is it that we want to achieve? Start with the end in mind. Data management, of course, this is what we need to support. When we think of this overarching quality, how are we managing the data? How are we monitoring what's happening in the school, in the early childhood center? How are we monitoring how the children are developing? Because we have to know if the children are progressing, you know, in a sustainable way, or some people are having a kind of a stop and a start kind of experience. We've got to see what that is about. Or some children seem to be falling behind their peer group. We've got to check that as well. So these are some of the indicators. As I said, these are by no means exhaustive. But when I discussed and did my little survey, these are the ones that, as we say, came to the top as some of the key indicators that would support quality in early childhood settings. All right, let me move along quickly now. There are some challenges. So in 2021-22, after the COVID pandemic, UNICEF supported a diagnostic review of the status of early childhood. And we did it across our 12 countries, looking at some of the challenges with early childhood, some of the things that were going well, progress that people have been making even with the COVID pandemic. I went back to the reports and I picked up the reports for the 4 countries who are participating in the training today. And I pulled out some of these as some of the challenges to quality. So when you're thinking of the indicators, you can also think, well, this is some of what people said at the time, 2021-22. People said these were some of the challenges we were having. And then you can already start thinking and looking at it and thinking, now which of these probably still obtains? Which of these is probably still where we are having that challenge? So let's see. A lack of qualified early childhood practitioners and teachers working, and I would qualify here where some people said in private early childhood centers. There were more the standard was that in government there was more commitment, for example, and more expectation and requirement to have training. First, remember just now we said one of the indicators was people quality and training. So this we have to look at. Limited research to inform decisions. I think this still obtains. And as I said just now, when we looked at the indicators, this is important because it helps us to know what is it that we need to do to improve. What additional resources do we need? Who are the experts do we need to consult with? How do we help, that child or those children showing different challenges? The research and the data helps to inform this. One challenge, many children with special needs or disabilities have difficulty accessing daycare centers or preschools. I was in one of the countries earlier this year and I was visiting a preschool and I spoke to the supervisor and, she said, Miss Harper, I don't accept children with disabilities into my school. And I said, well, why not? Let's talk about it. And pretty much she said, well, her staff are concerned that they don't feel like they have the knowledge and they don't feel like they have the skills to support a child with a disability. And so she just kind of plays it safe as far as she's concerned. And she says, we're not accepting. So this presents a challenge. You have to think about your own context. Is that a concern for you still? Because remember, these were taken from the 4 countries. And then linked to this, and I think this is where the comment from that provider in one of the other islands, where she was talking about limited qualified personnel to provide, early identification, early intervention for children with developmental delays and disabilities. And so this presents overarching quality. When we're talking about inclusion, we're talking about equity. This presents a challenge. The monitoring of the quality of ECD programs were not always consistent. And we know what this is. Sometimes this is a resource challenge. Sometimes people just can't find the time because there's so many other things happening. But the challenge of the monitoring not happening means that you're not keeping abreast of what's happening in the centers. Maybe people in the classroom itself, are not doing your own assessments and checking what's happening. So this presents a challenge when you're monitoring quality. The persistence of disasters and emergency situations disrupts programs and services. But we know that, right? We are in the disaster-prone areas, hurricanes, floods, fires. We're getting more of the tremors, those that are active, etc. But I underline it here for a particular reason, because I know that when I wrote this, the first thought, and I'm sure you're thinking, would have been exactly those things, those floods, those hurricanes, the storms, etc. But if you have been following the news, you would note that Barbados, at the moment, they're going for a serious spike in gun violence and violent crimes against people. Right now, I think we are at number 8 of homicides for the year. And so when we think of emergency situations, we now have to consider other types of people in the communities. Those children are living in homes where somebody has been shot, someone's been stabbed, somebody has been gunned down in a drive-by shooting. These are also presenting other challenges for the ability of the children to access their education, even when they're in the classroom, because there is stress, there is trauma, there is anxiety, there is fear, etc. And so when we're thinking about emergency situations and how it impacts the quality of education, we have to consider some of the societal changes that we are seeing. limited collaboration or coordination and harmonization. And so basically this speaks to the fact that early childhood really is an integrated concern. You know, sometimes we think of education over here doing education, but we recognize that, as we said with the nurturing care framework earlier, you need that holistic look at health, nutrition, safety and security. All of this comes back to this whole thing about emergency. If children are feeling safe and secure in their space, they will better able to access the education. And so basically what we're saying here is we need to strengthen that coordination across sectors. And then government budgets for ECD remains a bit low when compared, because I'm sure your countries can say, well, we have added more, we have improved our budget for early childhood, but it still remains low when compared to budgets for primary and secondary and tertiary education. And that sometimes, again, presents the challenge when we're trying to provide quality early childhood. So we're winding down this presentation, folks. Quality in early years, why does it matter? So this is really my second to last slide. When we take in, as I said before, young children need nurturing care from the start. And we know that means they need good health, good nutrition. They need to be safe and protected in their communities, homes and communities. And we need parents who have time for them. We need parents who are going to put down the cell phone and talk to the children to find out, what is it that I can help you with? What is it that you need? How was your day, etc. We know that the most formative experience of young children from the nurturing care received is from their parents, family members, caregivers, and teachers when they come to school. But of course, what's happening in the community? Healthcare workers, social workers, really everybody has a stake, let's call it that. It's an all of community approach when we're thinking about quality in the early years. We know that a stable environment will promote good health and nutrition. It will protect children from threats. It gives them the opportunity for learning. It strengthens relationships, and how they are able to grow together. And we understand that if we can do all of this consistently, and as Cicera said, we can do it together, the aim is, the outcome of all of this is that our children will be learning. They will learn how to behave in appropriate ways. We say time and place is important. They will be better able to manage their physical and their mental health, because, if our parents and our family members and our teachers, if they themselves are not feeling mentally well or psychologically well, they're not able to help the children. So for children to have a strong psychosocial development and strong mental health development, we need our caregivers around them to also have that. And as we're saying, these strong foundations will increase the possibility that children will survive, children will thrive, and reach, as we say, their full potential. And so my last slide I took from an educator, which simply said, I do not have to earn the right to learn, because that right is mine. So I thank you for listening. I do apologize for the slides at the start, but I think we got the message, and you will get those slides as well. And I thank you. That the whole matter of quality, as Cicera and all of those who've gone before, we have to do it together. And so I like the approach of this forum, which says that we're not only going to talk and listen and share and discuss, but now we're going to put some things on paper. We're going to identify that one or two things that we think, this is something that we can zero in and see how we can support, quality and make it sustainable, make it consistent. And of course, we're looking at the long term, which are children who can reach their potential, children who are using their skills, children who are, creative and making progress in the areas, children who are able to contribute positively to society, and children who can participate in society when they become, adults. So with that, I thank you.